What's up, everybody? It's the Junkyard Dawgcast. I'm Jake Rowe with Dawgs 24/7. With me, Kip Adams and Rusty Mansell, also of Dawgs 24/7. We got a lot to talk about. We got Brian McClendon hired as receivers coach, Mike Bobo also coming back to Georgia, a couple of alums, a couple of guys that coached on the same staff together for a long time. They've been at it for a while. And also, it's my last day. I announced on our board, I announced on Twitter.
Don't talk about this early.
As of tomorrow, I will no longer be a Dawgs 24/7 or 24/7 Sports employee. And this is my last podcast, my last YouTube show. And I'm going to miss it, man. I'm going to miss it. But we need to talk about the news first because it's way more important than me doing this, because somebody else sitting in this seat probably do a better job anyway. All right. So let's start with Mike Bobo, since that happened first. Since that happened on Friday, he kind of moved into the offices, and I don't know what the deal is there. I don't know if he's sharing the office with a bunch of GAs. I don't know how Mike's doing that. Obviously, he's not doing that, but if they're in there playing cards during their break or whatever, him in there with a bunch of 18-year-old student assistants. But no, Mike Bobo is back at Georgia as an offensive analyst. I assume Rusty is probably going to be a senior offensive analyst position, kind of like Will Muschamp had. Obviously, no salary details. He's probably got a little money coming to him from Auburn, as far as that goes.
And South Carolina, and one more payment from Colorado State. Just a source confirms that to me.
Yeah, so he got a lot of money coming his way. I don't think he's going to be hurting for cash, but I love the addition. And Rusty, I love it because Mike Bobo, listen, there's all this talk about the game passing, but Mike Bobo is one of the first guys in the SEC to start running that RPO stuff. They were doing that RPO slant stuff as soon as anybody else was. I don't think the game has passed him by in any stretch. I think the use of a fullback has some folks kind of believing, well, there's different. Mike Bobo knows how to coach offense. But I really like the hire because I liken him to Jim Chaney in one aspect, and that's the fact that run game, these guys figure it out. They're multiple gap scheme, zone scheme, duo, toss sweep, all of that stuff. And he's just a good offensive mind and a hard-nosed football coach and a grinder and somebody that can help them as a recruiter as well. But Rusty, I mean, obviously you've been really familiar with Coach Bobo. You've coached, you've followed Georgia and covered Georgia for a long time while he was the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. What's your take on him coming back to Athens?
I've known Mike probably since the mid-'80s. We both lived in Rome, Georgia. His father was a high school coach here at West Rome High School, the old West Rome High School, a couple of state championship teams. So I knew Mike when he was younger, kind of reconnected with him when he got in high school. He would visit Rome quite often with friends he knew. So kind of got reacquainted with Mike. Known him for 30 years now, played 100 rounds of golf with him. And I'll tell you this, saying all that, he is the worst source in the history of sources. Mike Bobo ain't giving you nothing. So I had to go around him for us to confirm that the dude's back at Georgia officially. And so what I'll say this is I do know, and this comes from people that I trust with that he turned down opportunities to go to the ACC on the field, and he turned down opportunity in the SEC to go on the field. I think at this point in his life that he felt like he needed to be back at Georgia. His son's about to come to Georgia. His wife's a graduate of Georgia. He married into a family that's, connected to Vince Dooley. So there's a ton of Georgia Bulldog in him. And knowing him, this is a guy that, he consumes himself. When he was at Colorado State, he was 1,000% Colorado State. Same with South Carolina. Same with Auburn until he wasn't at Auburn. So I think he kind of got away and kind of, backed away from things and made some decisions, and a family decision for him. His kids are in high school now. Drew will be at Georgia. He's got a set of triplets who just turned 16, I think, yesterday. And he's got a younger daughter. And it was just time for them to come back to the University of Georgia. I think it was a family, 1,000% it was a family decision. And Kirby Smart tried to hire him a couple years ago, and he tried to hire him again this year. And whatever role it was and whatever role it's going to be, it was an intentional for Kirby Smart to go get Mike Bobo. They've been friends a long time, but I think more personally, Kirby Smart respects him and what he brings to the table. I said it on our, kind of ramblings this morning. And Kip will talk more about Brian McClendon, I'm sure, but the amount of text I got this weekend from coaches about Mike Bobo and Brian McClendon, I always kind of took that for granted. but those guys are so connected and they're so intertwined with the state of Georgia high school coaches from Camden County to Raven County. Those guys are connected, and the impact of what Kirby Smart did this weekend will be felt for a long time. Next couple of years. Those were two major deals, but I know Mike Bobo is excited to be back in Athens and working for a guy and working with Will Muschamp, now Brian McClendon. A lot of guys he's familiar with, and it won't take him long before you'll start hearing Mike Bobo's name mentioned in some of these recruiting articles that me and Kip will be writing from prospects talking about him.
I guess if you count the head coach, there's 11 on-field coaches for Georgia. 4 of them are now Georgia graduates. You got Todd Hartley, obviously Kirby Smart. You got Brian McClendon. Mike Bobo doesn't factor into that. And then Will Muschamp. So, you've got, 4 homegrown guys, another one in the analyst office there. And you're right, Rusty. One of the things, and I remember this back from my recruiting days, Kip knows this from that time too, when McClendon and Bobo were out there. I mean, more often than not, they were 1 and 2, at least 2 of the top 3. You might want to throw John Lilly in there, some years too. I mean, he was definitely in the top 3, but it was those 3 that were, Georgia's alpha recruiters, during that time. If Georgia landed a 5-star, odds are Brian McClendon was going to be the guy landing him. If it wasn't Brian McClendon, it's probably going to be Mike Bobo or John Lilly. And, and Georgia's got 2 of those guys back. One of them will only be able to recruit on campus. That's Mike Bobo. He'll only be able to go out on the road if Georgia's down an assistant coach and they apply for the waiver and get that and whatever. But I do know that Brian McClendon and Mike Bobo have sterling reputations as recruiters in the state of Georgia. Those 2 guys went head-to-head with Kirby Smart and that Bama machine back in those days and won some battles for some really good players.
We'll tell some stories later. We'll tell some stories later, but we probably all 3 were there. In the state championship game, Norcross, Alvin Kamara was sitting in the bleachers, and his sister was the key to the whole thing. On one shoulder was Brian McClendon. On the very next seat beside him was Kirby Smart, and then it was his sister. So I'll never forget looking up and seeing those 2 dudes sitting in the stands like, you're not going to up me, not one up me today. But those are some of the things that you're talking about, Jay. They've been some heavy battles, and now they're on the same team.
Some of the kind of thing you would put into a movie to make people, for some comedy relief, if you had a good recruiting drama movie. If you're in Blue Chips, that'd been something that would have been real nice to put in there. One coach on either side of the decision maker, the key to the recruitment. Kip, Brian McClendon's back. 2 stops since leaving Georgia. South Carolina, 2 years as the receivers coach, and I think co-offensive coordinator, 2 years as the play caller. Then he goes on to Oregon and has a very small cup of coffee at the University of Miami before Georgia brought him on. What are your thoughts on bringing Brian McClendon on? Because, again, I know how familiar you are with Brian McClendon, the recruiter, just from having covered this, portion of this thing so closely for so long while he was at Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, the 24/7 Sports Recruiter of the Year during his time at Georgia, and I think, it's pretty clear that he brings elite recruiting to, maybe a position room that, I don't know if there's been a position room that gets debated, on the junkyard more than that wide receiver position. Obviously, quarterback's always going to be a big topic, but the wide receiver position's one that people have asked, will Georgia be able to recruit wide receivers consistently, the elite guys that, the fan base wants to see Georgia just having multiple 1,000 yards receivers, even though, they've only had one to this date, Terrence Edwards. But I think with Brian McClendon, he is that guy that you put him in that room, and they got a chance to get some big time talent. It's not just, the state of Georgia. Obviously, he made a big name for himself by going into other states and getting elite talent. You look at North Carolina. the guy went in there and got, Keith Marshall and Todd Gurley out there when, it was tough to get guys out of that state. And then he goes to South Florida, and he gets Sony Michel. He goes into American Heritage, gets Isaiah McKenzie. He's the lead recruiter for Isaiah Wynn as well. The big moment of Isaiah Kroll holding up that, that Bulldog puppy. That was a big recruiting battle with Kirby Smart as well. And so he established himself as an elite recruiter. And I think, we were looking at this wide receiver hire, and, it could go a number of different ways. I think, them bringing Bobo on board, that kind of probably, gave you kind of a hint of which direction they might go, because I mean, we know how highly regarded Brian McClendon is with Mike Bobo. The respect that they have for each other. And we're talking about bringing a guy like Bobo on board, bringing a guy like McClendon on board. Are there too many people that Kirby Smart's too familiar with? But I see it the opposite. This interview process, you're trying to figure out if these guys can be a good fit for your staff. And that's kind of an unknown. You're having to kind of take a guess. There's no guesswork involved. Kirby Smart knows exactly what he's getting in these guys, and getting them on staff. These guys know exactly, how to work well with each other. And I think that chemistry, that familiarity is actually going to be a strength for this coaching staff. So I think, as Rusty said, I mean, the high school coaches throughout the state of Georgia, they know that they're going to have guys they trust on Georgia's staff, from Kirby Smart to Brian McClendon and Mike Bobo. But now I think that one thing Georgia was kind of missing the last couple of years is that South Florida connection since James Coley left. I mean, when he left, we talked about, can Georgia continue to recruit South Florida, strongly as they had before with Coley? McClendon gives them that guy. And looking at the wide receiver position right now, it's early, but it does look to be down in the state of Georgia. It is not down in South Florida. There are some elite pass catchers down there. So you get a guy like McClendon in there, it gives Georgia a chance to really be in the mix for some elite pass catchers. And I just think it just strengthens this coaching staff overall. When Kirby Smart loses guys, it's usually to, promotions, or, they're getting a huge pay raise. It's still an opportunity for him to, do some self-scouting and see, can I actually improve my coaching staff this offseason and get better for next year? Even though they're coming off a national championship, it looks like right now this coaching staff is stronger than it was before on paper. It looks like they really got some guys in there on the offensive side that can really recruit. They know each other well. And honestly, they're prepared. The NFL coaching carousel has not ended. If there's an offensive coordinator position that brings Todd Monken back into the fold in the NFL, Georgia is as prepared as they can be to handle that and have guys in place who know what Kirby Smart's looking for in offense.
You got 3 quick points I want to make. One, it did surprise me a little bit that Brian McClendon's name popped up, and maybe it shouldn't have, but I just remember when Kirby Smart took the job at Georgia, you didn't hear much about Brian McClendon maybe staying on staff. That was probably because he needed to branch out and wanted to branch out. So that was one thing. 2, you want to like a quick illustration as to how this whole thing works, the coaching profession, and how weird it can get, how quickly it can get weird. Brian McClendon was replaced at South Carolina by Mike Bobo. And Georgia got like 2 consecutive South Carolina offensive coordinators on staff, neither one of them in a coordinator role. That's just, that happens, man. You can't really have any hard feelings. And I know there were all these rumors of hard feelings between Kirby Smart and Brian McClendon. Well, if there ever were, they got over them pretty quick. Maybe there were hard feelings for 45 minutes or so, but that may have been it. Same with Mike Bobo and Kirby Smart too. And then thirdly, Brian McClendon, guys, you guys remember this, and I remember writing this at some point back in probably 2012, 2013. Brian McClendon was that assistant coach that I bet 95% of the kids Georgia recruited shook his hand and had a conversation with him of some sort on an official visit or an unofficial visit. Like he was one of those guys that before you left, you met B-Mac, because he's got that magnetic type of personality. He's a cool dude. He commands the room. And I thought it was interesting. Jake Gaines spent 1 season at Georgia. I think he may have been the first player on Twitter yesterday to pop out and be like, yes, everybody in the locker room respected Brian McClendon. And, all-time winningest coach in Georgia history. He's 1-0. That win percentage don't get any better. 1-0 as interim head coach. Beat a Power 5 program, Penn State, in a neutral site. His head coaching chops are on full display. But, again, the guy that everybody kind of talked to at Georgia when Brian McClendon was there was Brian McClendon. And he was the alpha recruiter. And, we'll see if he can transform that Georgia receiver room. They're in pretty good shape right now. Even losing Jermaine Burton, you've got a lot of young talent in that room. But I think we all agree that if Georgia wants to be a difference-making offense, if Georgia's offense ever wants to lead the way and be that 40, 45-point-a-game deal, they're going to have to land, big-time receiver after big-time receiver and stack that room. And Brian McClellan gives them a chance to do that. All right, let's take a break here real quick. On the other side, we'll talk about other stuff. All right, I'm tempted to see if we could turn this into a roast or something, because I'm just, been a tough day. I'm leaving, and guys, I kind of made this decision first, kind of back in the summer. I just decided, hey, if I'm going to grow, if I want to go out and see what's out there, I'm going to have to let myself do that, just because of how the things work in this business with contracts and whatnot. But it got harder. It got a lot harder throughout the season. Georgia winning a national championship, thinking about some of the relationships you made. But I've been here for almost 8 years. And like I posted on our board, I had 1 kid when I came, and I got 4 now. One of them is adopted, so I hadn't been that busy. But man, it's been crazy working with you guys. It really has. It's been wild. So many weird things have happened. I mean, so many crazy days, from Jeremy Pruitt fake tweets to I mean, from Chuma Edoga, Rusty, just felt like we had it nailed down. Oof. And we didn't. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of stuff that I just can't and won't forget. And it's been great working with you guys. And obviously, I don't want this to really center around me or anything, but I do want to get into some story time and kind of light up some cigars here real quick and pour some bourbon on some ice and maybe talk about some of the crazy things that's happened, during our, Kip, I guess, more like 7 years for you, but almost 8 with me and Rusty here. Man, it's been a wild ride. Anything stand out to you guys as far as the stuff we've got a chance to cover together, Rusty?
Well, we could go a long ways. I guess we got to keep this PG rated. But there's been a lot of times on our, a lot of people don't see it, but when Jake's, he's laid back dude, and he can cut it up with the best of them and talk to everybody. But when Jake has enough, it's over. Like, you're done. You're straight to ban with that. When you get that point to Jake, I can tell as a parent with your kids, when they push you past the limit, it's over. They're in timeout. So, we've got certain board posters that you slapped in and said, hey, you're going straight to timeout. And I knew when you said, hey, they're gone, nobody else had to ask another question. Didn't ask what they did. Somebody was going to the junkyard pokey, and you put $1 million of them in there. But I think what I'll always remember is the conversations, because I was here from the start on, could Jake Rowe actually do the job that we're going to give him? You'd never done that, the beat writer. That was, you were in our world, mine and Kip for you were day-to-day recruiting. You had to know what was going on every day. So I think people don't realize the different gear that a beat writer does and a different role that you do, every day to day. And I'll be honest with you, didn't know how it was going to work out, but, I didn't make the final decision, but when they came to me and said, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing, I was like, let's let this guy do this. And it wound up being, without a doubt, the best decision we ever made on this site was to do that. You just fit right. And listen, you replaced a guy that was very popular on the sport. Gentry did a great job, but there was a time and place for Gentry, and he moved on to, different world too. And I just think you were the right fit, and I think you peaked when you picked Bama. You will be forever.
Hey, I did that listen, what happened? What happened?
There's people on the board thanking you. They're saying, hey,
what happened?
When you picked Bama, that changed the entire history of Georgia football. And
I took down the Bama dynasty by myself.
Everybody over here is thanking you for it. I see a couple of the comments are like, man, Jake, we owe you for picking Bama. And I think me and Kip the day you picked Bama were like, oh my.
Hey Jordan, put my Venmo up there real quick. Put my Venmo across the bottom. People can thank me.
But I think that how you handled that situation kind of sums up everything. Is you always stayed in your own lane. You did your thing every day. When people probably doing different things, very, very consistent in what you did. And I think that's why you see the reaction from these people. You see the reaction from our board. I told my wife, she came home for lunch for a minute, and I said, look, you see the reaction for Jake on Twitter, man. And you don't see that much. And people from every news media outlet at Georgia, and I meant what I said on the board. If you don't come in at least once a month and ban some people, then I'll probably block your number for a while, because that's when you come in and lay down the law, man, you lay down the law.
I like people, man. I do. I really do like people. Even those folks I'd ban on the board, every now and then I would always, every time I'd let somebody back. I don't think the only person I ever put on, somebody threatened one time. I guess this goes to the story thing. Somebody threatened me one time. They said, it was right before G-Day. I banned them the Friday before G-Day. And they said, I hope I see you at G-Day. He said, I'm going to beat you to death. Okay. And I said, man, you probably don't need to post here no more. And I hit up our man, Dan Cotton, the unsung hero at 24/7 Sports, in my opinion. I hit up Dan Cotton. There's a reason when we get together at 24/7 Sports, Dan Cotton gets a drink in his hand and kind of takes some time off, okay? Because Dan deals with some stuff over there at that 24/7 Sports retention, customer service area. And I hit up Dan. I said, hey, man, we need to get an IP ban on somebody. I'm afraid for my life. And Dan was like, got you. We got you. And then I think old boy went to the library computer or something and created another account. We got that one banned too, and he got the hint. But I like people. I love people. I love hanging around with folks. I go back to that beat writer job, and I remember we were talking about it, and they were asking me what I thought about who we should bring on, and I brought up some names. I was like, hey, let's bring this guy on. Let's bring that guy on. Let's do this. Let's do that. I never even considered it. It wasn't until I can't remember who actually called me, and they were like, hey, what do you think about being the beat writer? And I was like, wait a minute, man, I'm teaching history, and you want me to teach calculus? Are you serious?
Oh man.
Can I at least teach algebra 1? But I tell you what, I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm really glad that obviously at that point my career hadn't been here very long, so I wasn't going to really step in the way of it and say no. But I'm glad I accepted it the way I did, because man, I saw South Bend, I saw the Rose Bowl, Hard Rock Stadium, Lucas Oil. I love going up to Lexington, Kentucky. That's probably my favorite place in the SEC to be, and it's not just because of the bourbon. But you see some really cool places. Saw some classic games. I mean, dude, I could have, if I would have had the money, if I would have had the ability to just say I'm going to walk away after the end of the 2017 season, I would have done it then, because there's no way I was ever going to cover 2 better football games. Yeah. And I still hadn't. I haven't covered a single football game as good as either one of those games since. The only one come close was the 2018 SEC championship game, and that was a little weird because Alabama kind of dominated that game late to win it. There was no real back and forth. But Kip, you and I talk every single day on G-Chat. I mean, every single day, over and over again, food, people, shows, bourbon. I'm hungover. That's been thrown out there before too. I'm jet lagged. That's coming from Kip. What stories kind of stand out to you? And again, please don't feel like you got to say a story about me, but something we did together. Anything kind of stand out to you that we were able to run down over the years?
Kip's already stretching for this. He's already stretching.
I actually think we're the last 2 people using G-Chat. I think that they turned the lights off. And they're getting the numbers back and saying there's still been 500 messages sent in G-Chat yesterday. Who's still using it? It's just you and I. We've been on that thing since 2008, 2009, I think, somewhere in there. And it seems like, every time you've stepped into shoes, you've left those shoes, bigger than the ones you stepped into. I think it's insane that you were able to pivot, not only pivot well, but you have people talking about, how are they going to fill your role? You're that guy now that everyone's like, how is Dawgs 247 going to fill Jake's role? And obviously, we're going to do that. But I think just the fact that we're here discussing that, it just shows that, I mean, you didn't just step in and clock in every day. You crushed it for basically a decade at Dawgs 247. And I mean, it's been incredible to work with you. I don't know. I know our Facebook page is probably going to struggle for the next couple of weeks with me actually having to, maybe do my job a little bit moving forward. But man, every day with you is always an adventure. I knew that, obviously you would have 3 messages waiting for me whenever I wake up at the crack of 9:30, 10 a.m. every day. And then, I would know what our topic of the day or what we had to do every day was. But it was always just when we had to step in when news broke, it was, I mean, it probably got our blood pressure higher than what our doctors would want. But it was always that moment that I knew that there's no one else that I would rather be on this journey with, because we're always ready to roll with whatever happens. I mean, if Rusty, tells us that, he talked to the coaches at Rome High School and it seems like Adam Anderson's locked in, and then 5 minutes later he flips to LSU on G-Day. I mean, you were ready to roll with it. I mean, we were ready to give them bad news and know that let's jump on the boards and put some fires.
They got Jake
out.
Camarda later that day.
Let me tell you what. I mean, let me get one. I made a decision not to go to G-Day, which was a big deal because back then you take pictures of recruits on the field.
Yeah.
We all made a group decision. Listen, nothing's going to happen today. So I go play golf. First time of the spring, I go play golf with some buddies. I'm on hole number 2, and what breaks loose. And next thing you know, I'm you guys and Jake's handling it. It's G-Day. News is breaking right before the game comes on, and I'm like, "You got to be!" Well, I can't believe Rick Kit brought that up. That was a bad. That was.
Well, that's the thing. We made the decision. Nothing's gonna happen. That decision gets made for us.
Yeah,
we don't get to make that decision. Yeah. It was. I did throw Rusty under there a little bit, but I just remember 5 minutes. Like, everything all right? Yeah, Rusty says everything's fine, and then we were in the weeds a little bit. But that's what this is. It's we prepare for everything, but then this thing that we do throws us a curveball. And I think unlike Andrew Jones, I mean, you learn how to hit curveballs with the best of them, and I think that's really, really what stood out to me is no matter if it's a heater, inside, or it's a breaking ball down the way, you were prepared and you were ready for anything that this beat threw at you. And I mean, I'll never forget the times that we had, and I hope that we keep chatting it along. I'm looking forward to some new and improved rib recipes. Let me know what that rib rub you got going on in the next couple of weeks. I know you're going to be catching some bass probably in the days to come. We're looking forward to those photos. But man, it's been great. Every single news story, I wouldn't have want to covered it with anybody else. I mean, the ups and downs. I mean, watch. I remember being at Home Depot looking at Christmas trees, and then get that text that Mark Richt had been let go. I mean, we knew that what we were going to be doing for the next 72 hours, or when Devonta Smith caught that pass and it was like 12:15, and we knew that we had 3 or 4 hours of writing stories that no one wants to read. we still got it done. And
that's the last night of my life I can remember not sleeping. Like because I'd drive back to Athens and I didn't sleep. I came back and helped my wife get the kids ready for school and got right back to work.
And sit next to you when that the pick 6 happened, and we knew that the Georgia was going to win that game, and then seeing 30 minutes later, your FaceTime with your family. I mean, I knew that was going to happen. You always made sure to put your family first, and that's something that always stood out to me. The fact that you're a father and a husband first, and then a damn good Dawgs 247 rider second. But it's been a pleasure, man. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else but you two guys. And Jake, man, congratulations, man. It's few guys can go out on top like you're doing right now, man.
I don't know about on top, but
hey,
I'm looking forward to a little time off for sure. I really don't know what's next. It's one of those things. Like I said, you start thinking about what you're doing, and you're happy where you're at, but sometimes, you want more. I'm 38, and you start looking, hey, do I want to try and do this? Do I want to try and do that? Do I want to live where I'm at for the rest of my life? I got, my wife's family lives 2 hours away. My family lives 4 hours away. You just have to give yourself a chance. I feel like if you open things up and give yourself a chance to make those decisions and kind of trust that if you do decide ultimately that what you're doing is your calling, is your career path, then you got to be confident enough that you can get back in it if you want to. And that's definitely a possibility. It's also a possibility I go sell houses or work at Wendy's too. I don't really know. I'll do whatever it takes to put food on the table, though. I will say that. Rusty, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I'm going to end on a different note. And so where were we at? We were in Birmingham, and we were eating we were eating something. Shannon, Terry, all that whole crew, 24/7 management.
They were at Firebirds.
Yeah, we're at Firebirds, and we're over there for a little conference, a little SEC media day.
Yeah,
hello meeting.
That was right during the Scout 24/7 merger.
Yeah. And listen, I grew up in the South, man. I got some country in me, and I know
I know where this is going.
You want to clean your plate off, you clean your plate off. So we're sitting there eating. And I'll never forget Tim Watts from Bama Online looks at me, and he is about to crawl under the table, and he can't talk. And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Look at Jake." I look down there, and Jake has got. Of course, Jake had a steak the size of a damn Winnebago, and he's eating his steak. And Jake takes his bread, and there's some steak juice left on there, so Jake just scoops it up right there, and I'm dying laughing because I've done that before, so I'm not ratting you out, but I'm thinking this man we're going to have to wheelbarrow this man out of here. And the lady goes, "Anybody going to have some dessert?" And Jake looks right dead in the eye and says, "I think I'm going to have some of that banana pudding." The whole table lost it. Like, this man is going to eat some banana pudding after that steak he just ate. And I said, "Let me tell you something. Don't get between the dog and his meat now. That man is eating." And I remember the whole table high-fived you when you got done. Now, I know you took a nap. You had to. But
well, that was bedtime. I actually went to we went to the bar at the Winfrey after that.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, remember we told everybody everybody else was going to another bar, Tomahawks. We got the whole crew said, "Yeah, there's a big bar called Tomahawks," and all the younger guys took an Uber. And by the way, we made that up. There was no bar named Tomahawk, so all those guys came back pissed off.
Oh my god! No, that was a crazy trip for me because I talked my stepfather-in-law to going with me because my wife's 30th birthday was the next day.
I forgot about that.
And I talked him into going with me. And as soon as SEC Media Days was over, we hopped into a car and I worked all the way back to Birmingham because, listen, I knew what it was going to be if I wasn't back for that 30th birthday. We threw her a surprise party here at Girasole's in Watkins. But I think William Wilkerson. God, I love that guy.
That was a
kindest
performance, man.
Sweetest man. William Wilkerson was sitting next to me, and I think I ordered like a 20-ounce bone-in ribeye. And William goes, "Oh man, there ain't no way you're gonna eat that whole steak, are you?" And I just told William, I said, "Man, we got to get to know each other better."
Yeah, that man sucked the bone marrow out of that thing. 20. That wasn't even a battle
for him to say that, man. He's from Texas, right? I mean,
yeah.
Well, the Texas meat, that's respect right there.
I don't know if William eats red meat. He may not. I don't know. But well, one of the best dudes I ever worked with, along with you two, for sure. But I tell you what, though, that you two weren't there, but Miami, dude, second night in Miami, there could be a movie made about the Georgia beat that night. And I ain't gonna name no names and name any names.
Oh boy.
Ain't gonna spill the beans, but Rusty said I ought to tell this. And listen, I'll say this: I feel like I'm an okay storyteller, but I don't know if I can tell this to where it was as wild as it felt in person. But you find out that morning, like right or that afternoon, right before we're about to go see practice, that the whole reason we're in Miami is not even there anymore. No practice. Can't confirm who's there and who ain't. So then your mission becomes, all right, JT Daniels and George Pickens. Are they here? Or are they not? Now that I think about it, in retrospect, the backup quarterback and a receiver that had probably 57 yards receiving on the year, that's who we were trying to figure out if they were there. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the big deal. But listen, we know our business. We know who drives things. And I remember the folks being mad that we were mad that we weren't going to get to see practice. And listen, we weren't mad as much as
You went down 5 days early.
yeah,
Christmas.
that was part of it, but we were more frustrated. We just couldn't do our job. Like,
Yeah.
we just, you just want to go do your job, and you want for once on this beat and any other beat, you just want it to kind of be there for you and there to be a little bit of structure to it. And it wasn't. So yeah, we were frustrated about that, and we always complain too much. And most people do just in general. And I was one of them. I tried not to take Twitter to it, but I let my things known via the board or whatever. So we come up with this. We hatched this plan. We're like, hey, listen, we're going to stake out the hotel. All right, we're going to go to the hotel. So we're on the way to the hotel, and I'm like, and I see an exit sign for Berry College where Georgia was practicing. And I said, no, we're going to Berry College. We go around there, and there's security everywhere. I'm talking about like president came to the 2017 SEC championship game. The only difference between this and that was the fact that the president's security was dressed better. That was it. There was that many people around there. Different color polos, whatever. I'm not going to talk about too much about what happened out there because there's some incriminating evidence that might get me in some trouble. But I took some chances.
Someone may or may not have been rolling or lying in the bushes.
Yeah, I took some chances out there. Okay, and there may or not, may not have been some peeking going on, but I can't confirm or deny. So then we head to the hotel. We're out there. We're just trying to kill time. Iguanas are everywhere. I'm kind of like I don't know. I wouldn't say adventurous. I'm more stupid than anything. And I take it upon myself. I'm gonna catch one of these iguanas. No, I didn't catch an iguana. I don't know if I've ever been fast enough to catch one of those. I don't know if Isaiah McKenzie or Tyreek Hill is fast enough to catch one of them things. By the way, when they run away from you, they get up on their hind legs and they run on 2 feet. So I think they feel like it's faster on 2 feet. And finally, after about 2 or 3 hours waiting, I just go to the concierge. And I'm like, hey, when do y'all expect the Georgia buses back? They weren't going to be back for another 2 hours. We had been there for 2 or 3 hours already. And so we gave up. So we're leaving. And this is me and 2, 3, 4 other beat riders. We start heading back to the hotel, which, by the way, one of the nightmares of Miami is that our hotel was 40 minutes away from the team hotel and about 25, 30 minutes away from the stadium. So everything's so spread out down there, which is why you'll notice if a team ever has a choice of playing a college football game in Miami, they're not going to do it. It's not just, the lure of South Beach. So we get through all that, and on the way down, one of the reporters gets kind of a tip like, hey, here George and JT might be on the way. So we start kind of digging around, and we find out, hey, if they're going to come in, they're going to come into a fixed base operator. We find out who the go-to fixed base operator is. We split forces. Long story short, some of us were at the hotel, some of us were at the airport. Some of us got made. Georgia was able to keep JT Daniels and George Pickens away. And Rusty, you know this as well as I do. If it weren't for the beauties of Instagram, nobody would have known anything.
Nobody would have known anything.
Nobody would have known anything. George Pickens let the cat out of the bag via Instagram. And then we all knew where to dig.
Well, from other sources, I trust, the beat riders were spotted in the car that was waiting to pick up the players. So at that point, the drivers of those vehicles went into the office and they allowed the car to pull around the backside of what the plane was going to go into the hangar. And as couple of figures are walking across a tarmac in the half dark, he couldn't tell who was who. So nobody would have known until probably game time.
Yeah.
Luckily, George Pickens, by the goodness of his heart, just tweets out a picture that he's in Miami. And right after that noise, it just exploded. And we were able to confirm JT Daniels and warn
all
him.
you need is if you just get a little piece of thread to pull. Sometimes all you need.
Needed that little pin to drop that he was in Miami. I bet Georgia's ready to kill him because they did so much to keep that quiet and pulled the car. They even took the players when they got back. Jake, tuck this away if you ever beat right. They took the players, from what I understand, to the loading dock and had them open the door. They could drive the loading dock into the loading dock and shut it at the hotel. So they went through a lot. Oh, by the way, what they didn't realize that George Pickens had already tweeted a picture on it, or already put that story up. So all that was irrelevant at that point. But
yeah, within 20 minutes of them landing, there wasn't enough time for them to get from there to the hotel before that, and they had already tweeted it, or already put it on Instagram. Yeah, that one was a fun one, and man, I'll tell you what, I've parked in places that I never should have parked, and I can't believe I did get towed one time, and me and Todd Gurley got our car out of impound at the same time. Yep. Todd had cash, I didn't. Little did I know,
those autographs.
Yeah, autographs. And that was right. That was before that season. During Georgia, UGA towed Todd Gurley's car from out in front of the Butts Smear building right before the 2014 season. Mm. And me and Todd were in there getting our cars back, and I had to go to ATM up at the store. Todd had some 20s on him. But other than that, since 2014, I have a good run of not getting my car towed. Should have been towed probably 24 times since. But tell you what, man, it's been a blast. It's been a cool ride. This is a great job to do, and it never really stops. And there's a limited amount of time where it's just full-fledged, all out work. But it's a lot of fun to do. And I really can't wait to see what's next. And I can't wait to see what you guys do over at Dawgs 24/7. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. And, it's, I don't know, man, there's a lot of time left in this day. And I've already been emotional a couple times, but I'm excited to, I'm excited to do a little fishing, do a little hunting, play a little golf. Do those things, but
you're gonna be active on Twitter.
Yeah, I'll stick around on Twitter.
Pitchers and catchers report soon. Are you kidding me?
I tweet about the Braves mostly anyway.
Yeah.
No, I was for a little while there, just to kind of keep it going. I probably watch some old games, do some gifts on Twitter, and put some stuff out like that. I thought about maybe hitting up some other people and maybe doing a different deal as far as a podcast goes. Really trash this podcast and tell them they don't need to be listening to this thing.
Just give us a thumbs up.
Yeah. I'll you guys can run ads on my new podcast if you want to. Yeah. And then I don't know, we'll see. Bill Shanks hit me up a little while ago. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be about. But we'll see what we can get going. But I do love this business, and I do feel like at some point in the future that I may be able to get back in if that's what I really want to do. But, I want to have that option to, my folks are getting older. Want to have the option to maybe raise my kids down there where I grew up. My wife actually wants that more than I do. Or be closer to her family. Going to take some vacations, kids going to Disney here late in February. Cool. So we got some plans, and we're going to have a lot of fun in the process. But it has been an absolute blast and honor to work with y'all too, because I tell you what, both of you, before I even thought about getting in this business, I was reading what you guys had to write. I was following what you guys had going on. And it was, I've always looked up to you, and I always thought it was kind of surreal that, looking back at those times that I got a chance to work with you after reading so much of your stuff and enjoying it and making it kind of appointment consumerism in some ways. So thanks for working with me. And, day ain't over yet. Maybe we can make some more memories. You got anything else?
Man, I'm good. I don't want this thing breaking into no eye sweat now.
Yeah,
No, man, I'm fighting it right now, man.
I'm getting close.
Hey, we got to get out of here for that.
My face has been red for about 3/4 of this thing. I've been kind of blending in with my background. Let's let these people go. All right, this episode of Junkyard Dawgcast is over. I'm signing off. It's my last one, and we'll see you down the road. I'm Jake Rowe with Dawgs 24/7. They're Kip Adams and Rusty Mansell from the same place. Y'all take it easy.